Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today, I want to talk a little bit about troubleshooting and when you run into something that isn't working as you would expect, whether it be following a tutorial and something doesn't work right, or maybe you're just doing something on your own. I want to give you some tips and ideas of how to solve those problems and talk a little bit about some of the things that I do and the process that I go through to troubleshoot that. So let's go ahead and get started. And this is going to be kind of hard to do because obviously there's so many different ways that, you could go about this. There's so many different things that could go wrong. So I'm going to try to just kind of generalize this and give you the most common things. Um, the honestly, the biggest problems that I typically see people running into are collision issues, and issues with your line trace, which is often a collision issue as well. And then the other big problem that I see a lot of people run into, and this is to no one's fault at all. I do this all the time as well, but it's often just something very small that you miss. It could literally just be a variable that you miss that you set wrong, or maybe a boolean was set to true and it should have been false, or maybe a node wasn't hooked up right. Little things like that, and it can be really easy to do when you are working with a new system that you've never worked with before. Or if you're brand new to this, if you're brand new to Unreal Engine, maybe you barely even know what a blueprint is and you're just trying to follow along. It can be easy to miss things. So let's talk a little bit first about just kind of going through like the most basic and most simplest things first. And the first thing that I want to talk about is I know that there's probably a lot of people that are new to Unreal Engine, or maybe new to programming in general and new to game development. And a very common thing that I see and I hear a lot of people talk about, and I experience this as well, is they say, I'm following these tutorials, but I don't have any idea what I'm really doing, and I don't feel like I'm learning anything. And I know that I definitely ran into that, and I found it a bit frustrating, and I think a lot of people find that frustrating because it feels like you're not really learning. It feels like you're just following tutorials for things, right? And you're just kind of doing what the person that is doing the tutorial says. You don't really, understand what a variable is, or what these types of variables, or what something like get world location is. Maybe you don't really even understand like what a branch is, those kind of things. And so the natural question is, well, how do I learn that, and how do I actually start to learn these things? And I think it's a little bit of a boring answer, but honestly, the answer for me was just to keep doing these things over and over again. And I think one thing that I would recommend people do is to watch multiple tutorials. Watch my tutorial on how to make an interaction system, but go out and watch 5, 6, 10 other tutorials on how to make an interaction system. Because the way that I explain it and the way that I do it might be slightly different from how someone else explains it and how someone else does it. And so doing it over and over again and seeing how other people do it, it might just kind of help you kind of bring everything together. And I know for me, I did that. And it was one of those things where like all of a sudden it will start to kind of click. And you're like, oh, okay, that's why we're doing that. Because a lot of the things in here, you have to understand why you're doing things, right? And I guess I probably should make a video on like kind of like an episode 0 for Unreal Engine, maybe like a complete beginner's guide to Unreal Engine. If you guys would like me to do that, let me know. I'd be happy to do that and really just kind of start from absolute scratch. But again, I want to talk a little bit more about kind of troubleshooting things and some of the things that I do to troubleshoot things. So let's use our door as an example. Let's just pretend that our door is not working when we go up and we press E. Okay. Now, of course, it is working, but let's just pretend that I'm going up and I'm pressing E and it's not working. How would I go about troubleshooting that and figure out what's going on? Well, the first thing that I would do is I want to understand how my interaction system works, right? Because I want to go through this step by step. And if we think about this, what is actually going on here? When I'm in the game, I'm walking up and I'm pressing E, which that's my interaction. And if nothing is happening, then I'm probably going to start there with the interaction, and I want to make sure that the interaction is working. So that's actually not even being done in our door system. That is being done in our first-person character. So let's take a look at that. And by the way, if you want to know how to make this interaction system, if you want to know how to make this door system, I have tutorials on all of this. In fact, I have tutorials on literally everything in this project, including how to design and lay out all of this. So be sure to check those out. You can just go over to the channel, and I've got all of those for you to check out. So let's go to our interaction here, and let's just kind of walk through this. So the first thing that we can talk about is a print string. So if you right-click, you can just right-click anywhere and type print string. You get this node here, and this is extremely useful. I use print strings all the time, and you should as well. Highly recommend using these just everywhere that you want to know where something is happening or what is going on with something. And very simply, what a print string does or allows you to do is when you hook it up to a node like this, it will, if this action is fired, and by that I mean, is this actually working? Is it going to go to the next thing, which is our print string? And if it does, it's going to print out whatever we type in here. So I'll just type pressed interaction, and you can type anything in there. So if I compile, and if we just go in, and if I press E, you'll see up in the top left corner, it says pressed interaction. Now, I've got those other things that are being displayed. Let me go ahead and turn those off. That is from a puzzle that we made, which again, if you want to know how to make that, go and check that out. I've got some tutorials on those, and I'll have more tutorials coming for puzzles, more puzzles as well. But let's just get rid of that for now. So we have nothing up there, but now when I press E, you can see pressed interaction. So we know that this is working. Now, we don't really know that our line trace is working. And with our line trace, I created, which again, I have a tutorial for this as well, so be sure and go and check that out. I added a debug option in here so that we can quickly turn this on. So I can say for duration. And that will allow us to get a little bit of a visual guide or a visual aid to see actually what is happening when we're pressing E and how our line trace is shooting out and what it is interacting with. So the way the debug works on the line trace, you can see it shows you the line, and it shows you exactly where it starts, where it is going. That red square there, that is showing where it is hitting a collision. And then you can't really see here, but you can see here. So this green line, this is after it hits that collision. Then it continues on past that for whatever length we set. Okay, so there are so many times that you will run into things to where you have your interaction set up, your line trace is working, but maybe I don't know, like actually let's just use this box as an example. So there's collision on the box right now. I'm going to take the collision off. Let's just remove the collision and save. And so let's imagine that we're in a scenario where we are trying to get our line trace to hit the box, and we go up and oh, let's see, that's weird. Okay, so this is actually perfect. So we're getting a different result from what we expect to happen here. So this is a perfect way for me to kind of go through in real time what I would do when I'm getting results that are unexpected. So we took the collision off of the box, but you can see that I am still having that line hit something. Now, I'm pretty sure that I know what this is, but I'm just going to kind of pretend like I don't. Like I said, most of the times it is a collision issue. So you can very quickly toggle the collision in your scene, in your entire scene. You can go up here to show, turn collision on, and there we go. We can see what's happening here. So you can see this chair has collision on it, and it has a very simple collision, and it has this kind of plane here that is actually cutting through the box. And so even though it kind of looked like our line was actually hitting the box, it's actually hitting this this plane here, and that is causing an issue. So that is a perfect example of you know, getting results that you don't expect, and then trying to kind of troubleshoot and walk through how to figure out why that is not working. So maybe even a better example would be like if I move this box, we created these little bottles as an item that when we go up and we press our interaction on them, they will disappear. Now, if I were to take this and put it over on the chair, if I didn't have this collision turned on, I would probably be a little confused why this is not working, right? Because I set my bottle down there and I go up and I press E and I'm like, wait a second, this is not working. So before I even check my code, I often will just check the collision on things, make sure that the collision is right. Now we have collision on the bottle, but again, it is being blocked by the collision on this chair. Now you can solve this in a couple of different ways. You could just remove the collision. That can be an option for some things, but you probably want to keep collision on this so that, you know, when you walk up to it, you aren't just walking through it. The quickest and kind of easiest way to fix an issue like this would be to adjust the collision complexity here. I can change this from I can change it from the default to use complex collision as simple. This is a pretty common thing that you will probably get used to doing. But we can't just leave it like that, because if we still turn on our simple collision, you can see that it has now applied the complex collision as the simple collision, but we still have this other collision on there. So this is a little unintuitive, but if we go to collision here, and if we click on remove collision, it's going to remove that kind of initial collision that was applied to the model when we imported it. But as long as we have this changed over here to use complex collision as simple, it's going to still have a collision on it, and it's going to be much more precise. Now, if I change this back to defaults, now you can see there's no collision on there at all. But again, if we change that complex to, or use complex collision as simple, and if we save that, if we go back here now you can see that the collision looks much better, and we should be able to actually interact with our bottle. And there we go. Okay. So check your collision. That would be the the number one thing that I would recommend whenever you're trying to figure out you know, why things are not working with your interaction. There's basically anytime you're using a line trace, that can be an issue, and often is an issue, is that there's some kind of weird collision going on. Sometimes you can even get like, you might import something and it might, I've imported some meshes and they'll apply like this weird collision where it takes up over like half of the map, and it'll be like a small mesh, but if you zoom out, you'll see like a giant collision plane is going through it or something. And so that it's not super common that that happens, but that can happen. So anyway, go up here, show collision. That is a very useful thing. You can also use the shortcut Alt C. C is in cat. You can toggle it on and off very quickly like that. So yeah, so check your collision. That's the first thing. The other thing is to use your print strings. You can use those print strings in a number of different ways. The most common thing, is just to use them to see if something is actually working. So, if we put a print string on here on, or actually let's put it on here. Whoops. So we can say door opens, or I guess we could say maybe door toggled, because this technically is for opening and closing. We could check and do that, and now you can see that each time I'm pressing my interaction, we're going through our check here with our branch. We're checking if it's locked. If it's not locked, it's going to run this and also print our string. Now this, it's not super useful in this scenario because obviously if we do this and the door opens, then we pretty much know that it is running that code. But I can show you some instances where you can use print strings that is maybe a little different from what people think of using them, or a little different way to use them. You can use print strings not just to type something out that you type yourself. You can also, let me get a print string. You can plug other things into the string. So a good example would be our dot product here. So we're calculating our dot product and we're using the result of that to determine which way to open the door. So I can actually plug the dot product into the string there, and it will automatically convert it. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that just about any variable you can plug in here and it will automatically convert it for you. You could plug this in, it'll automatically convert that. You can, of course, plug in this. You could even, get something like this and plug it in and it will still convert that. It'll just basically give you the name of that. So you can use this in a lot of other ways. And one of the ways that I often use it is I use this in combination with events tick. Now, if you're new, you've probably heard people say, like, don't ever use event tick. I'm not going to go into event tick, but for our purposes here, we're purely using this to diagnose and troubleshoot. This would not be something that I would leave plugged in to ship the game with, but this is extremely useful for something like the dot product, because I can plug this in, and now, if you don't know what event tick is, this event will go off every single frame of the game. So if you hit play and you're getting 60 frames per second, this is going to run whatever is attached to here 60 times per second. So every single frame. Or if you're running 120 frames per second, it's going to run every single one of those 120 frames. So now what will happen is this will take this result here and it will convert this into the string, and every single frame it will update and show us what our dot product is. So if we go in here and play, now you can see that that is updating. What are we doing? About 110 frames per second. So literally 110 times per second, we're calculating the dot product there. And we're seeing that because we have that plugged into event tick. So that can be very useful for things like that, right? you can use this on other things as well. Maybe we were getting some weird results with our timeline here. Maybe we messed up our alpha. We would expect our alpha to go between 0 and 1 here. I could plug that in and we could check that. So let's compile. So you can see that it is 0. When we open the door, you can see it moves from 0 to 1 and then back to 0. So that's very useful. If you remembered in our puzzle, we were actually using that here as well. Let's see. I can just plug this up again here. I had this on event tick and I was checking our frame position. So I wanted to check our frame position, and then I also wanted to check whether it was finalized or not. Now, I'm not going to go into how this puzzle works. If you want to know how this puzzle works, you can go back and watch the actual tutorial. But just to give you an example here, we're tracking, now you can see we're tracking the positions. And actually, so this is another good example to show you how to use this a little differently. Because in this instance, I don't want to track every single frame. I can actually plug delta seconds here. I can plug this into duration on both of these. And now if I compile and save, now it's just going to give me a single result for those. And when the result is changed, it will update it. So you can see that we're tracking the bottom one there. And as we're changing that, we're going from 0, 1, 2, 3. And then it's also telling me whether that variable is true or false. And then it's tracking these other ones. So that is just another way that you can use print string. There's really just kind of an unlimited way that number of ways that you can use the print string. So I would highly recommend that you guys, if you're having a problem with something, use print strings. It will help you figure out, where something is going wrong. A lot of times on something like a branch, you might want to use it. Or maybe if you're trying to run something through like a cast and it's failing, you can check to see if it fails the cast very easily. That is a great way to utilize print strings. All right, so there are a number of other ways that I could talk about troubleshooting, but honestly, the biggest thing that you can do is just try to learn how these things work, learn how the blueprints work, learn how each system works. Like I said, start with something simple. Maybe don't start with a puzzle like this, but start with an interaction system. This is a relatively simple system that you will want to learn. It's very common that you want to get an interaction system, but at the same time, I know when I started, I went through tutorials that set up an interaction and I didn't understand it for a long time. I didn't fully understand how the line trace worked. I didn't really understand, like what is valid is. I didn't really understand fully what an interface was. I was just following along, just typing out what the tutorial was typing out, plugging what the tutorial was plugging into. Things like a branch, that took me a little while to understand what exactly is a branch, So I say that because I don't want you guys to get discouraged. If you follow a tutorial and you don't really understand what's going on, I would just say that that's totally normal. But at the same time, you do really need to start learning how these things work. And once you start learning how they work, then you will start not only being able to make your own systems, you'll be able to diagnose and troubleshoot these systems much easier. So watch the tutorials, but also go out and watch other people's tutorials. And especially the official Unreal Engine tutorials. Those are a great set of tutorials. If you go to their website, I don't remember exactly what it is, but if you just search for like the Unreal Engine official tutorials. You should find that. I'll try to just leave it a link to the in the description as well for that. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions on this subject or anything really, let me know. And if you have any suggestions on videos that you would like me to make, let me know. Be sure to check out the Patreon. We have a giveaway going on. All you have to do is go to the Patreon. You don't have to pay anything. Just join as a free member, leave a comment, and you'll be entered into a chance to win an asset pack that I make. And if you guys can subscribe, of course, that helps out a ton. And I will see you guys on the next video. All right. Take care, guys.